Welcome back to another pen talk. Thank you for spinning the dial and choosing my channel to watch some videos. And it's been a while and I've been not as productive as usual, but videos require motivation. And I've been distracted with many things, so coming up with something to talk about is always the interesting part. And it has to be interesting for me and hopefully interesting for you. So in front of you is a recent shipment from Bobby. Bobby's been a close friend of the channel for many years, pretty much close to when I started. He's been active in the pen community in China. It's his only job, to the best of my knowledge. One of my friends actually met with him when he visited China to see family. So we're going to look at each of these little items, talk about what I like about them and what their uses could be. So right here on top is an interesting collection of two parts which are kind of essential in working on nibs, and those that follow Bobby knows he's been doing some interesting work with nibs. So here's a series of micro mesh in various grade levels, 3000 being the finest, 1500. So 3000 would be more of a polishing one, and the other one would be more of a cutting one to remove metal. It's a whole process of tuning and working on nibs. So here Bobby did an interesting thing where he rounded off the edges of a very thin blade, which would be great for flossing nibs. A nice idea, one that I hadn't thought about. We all may have these types of razor blades, and getting them to work is a challenge. The other thing you need about working on nibs is a excellent loop, and this is a 30x loop. We'll see if I can get the camera to look at that. And here's a little bit nib, number 6 size, kind of like the design that Pen BBS uses. And we may look at that a little bit closer later. And here's an interesting little multi-tool that he talks about using for working on nibs. And it's interesting how it's designed. Very sturdy, very well made, Leatherman type quality. And as you can see, it has various pieces that pop out that you can use. That's always an interesting little item. Here's a Ground Architect nib that Bobby's famous for doing. And here are 6 pens. Each of these have some very interesting features, and I think it's worth looking at them. And let's do that now. So for me, fountain pens serve a number of different uses. One of them is they have to be nice to look at. You have to enjoy the aesthetics, the design elements, shapes, colors, sizes. There's only so much changes you can do to a pen design and not start to impact its functionality. This is certainly a very visually interesting design. This metal inlay is raised. You can feel it as you run your fingers across it. And each little piece of this pen has an interesting little design. There's a nice dragon there at that finial at the top. Well, 2 dragons. And a nice two-tone design element in the clip, which is not typical. A nice roller ball there. And the clip is functionally stiff. And there's a nice gap between the clip and the barrel, which is always good when sliding over something like a pen case or jeans. 2100, and it's a Fuliwen. So we'll look that up and see if we can find any information on it. And if we go down to the bottom of the barrel, we'll see another pair of dragons and another flat, polished gold tone piece. The cap pulls off and we'll see another interesting design element. It says gift. I'm not really certain about what else it says there above the gift in nice scripty language. It looks like Fuliwen and some more artistic design. The nib is also just standard, but it says Fuliwen. It has that design element in there, their logo, if you want to call it that. Just a standard plastic injection molded feed. You know, that section is nice. Barrel and screws as one would expect, and you'll see just a standard converter, screw converter. And we'll see Fuliwen there on the top of that section. So they've certainly branded this quite a bit, which is nice. It has a decent weight to it. Feels okay in the hand. I wouldn't call it the best. Some people like to post, and you can post this. It posts deeply, it posts securely, and it adds a fair amount of weight to the pen. So that's pen number 1. So on to pen number 2. This is a design I've seen for decades. I used to live in Manhattan, New York City, and I used to go to Canal Street a lot because I loved shopping all the interesting booths down there and stores. So I'd call this a design from the 70s, maybe 80s, and it comes in many varieties. Again, a pop-off cap, and we'll see an interesting nib. Montefiore, interesting name, and your classic just injection molded feed. I certainly do like the color combination, and it fits okay in the hand. It posts okay. It's certainly an interesting looking pen, and as we would expect, as we unscrew the section, it has a typical screw converter. It's an extremely well-made pen. It feels substantial. And it's interesting, the big pen with a small section kind of keeps your fingers in one spot. Nice, solid capping. Moving on to pen number 3. Classic design, you know, metal cap. The clip says Wingsung, which is interesting. Some Chinese around there. It looks like model 239. Little insert there at the bottom of the barrel. Nothing here on the cap. Again, a pull-off cap. Not as secure as one might think. And we'll see an interesting nib. An inlay nib. Kind of reminds me of some of the Pilot pens which were made about the same time I think this pen was made. I'd say it was the 80s to 90s. Very classic design. And if we unscrew the barrel, we'll see what really dates the pen is these aerometric converters, which I think work well. They hold more ink than a normal piston converter. A lot of people don't like them, but then, you know, everybody has their likes and dislikes. The pen is on the light side, and like the heavier pens that we first looked at, you don't even feel it in your hand, and as you think from the design, it posts extremely deep, extremely secure, and it adds just the right amount of weight, so it feels good in the hand the way it is. So if you're interested in any of these pens, I'll provide a list in the description with the best determination, and you just have to do a search because who knows where these vintage style Chinese pens might show up. Now on to pen number 4. Very recognizable shape and design. Interesting W logo there on the clip. If we look at the cap band, we'll see an 820. Yes, the plating on that is a little bit discolored. I haven't done anything to clean these vintage pens up. And we see a classic barrel there of some type of plastic. Again, a pop-off cap, but we'll find the most unusual nib, which has a W on it. Yes, Waterman made a pen like that had a nib like this, or similar to this. It's just a unique design. And as we expect, the barrel unscrews and we'll see an aerometric converter, which, as I mentioned, to me was very popular in the 80s, 90s, 70s, of that nature. So we must move on. Now we're on to pen number 5, another very visual pen with some writing there at the top of the cap. Made in China, in case you didn't know. And some Chinese symbols at the bottom of that cap. The engraving is okay. A little bit of, looks like gunk on the clip. And we see another stylized, looks like a V or something there in the, and it's a very sturdy, functional clip. Same type of little plastic cap at the end of the barrel with some design elements in it. Yeah, not a design that appeals to me. Again, a pull-off cap, and we see probably the main reason that this has been sent to me by Bobby is an interesting tubular nib. And there's that V there again. And just we see China, and looks like a VF or whatever. The section that goes with that type of nib. And as we unscrew the barrel, we'll see another aerometric converter. Yes, they were popular, very popular there for the time before piston converters took over. Yeah, it's also a very lightweight pen. The cap feels very secure, which is nice. Some of the other ones were a little bit loosey. Now we're on to number 6, the last pen in the group, and it's still in this cellophane sleeve, because as we'll see, it's a Hero, and they have this sticker here, so you know you're getting an authentic Hero, some type of identification. So I'm going to try to open this up without destroying that, and we'll look at the pen together for the first time. I was able to get this wrapper off without damaging it, and I don't know whether it's going to pick it up, but there is writing on the cellophane, some Chinese product of Hero, prohibit to imitate. Interesting statement. And we'll see if I can get any translations on this sticker. But here's the pen. There's that Hero logo in the clip. It's also in the cap band, and we'll see a 3802. Flat finial at the top of the cap, flat finial at the bottom. And we'll see something says Doctor across that band there at the bottom of the barrel. Pull-off cap again, so that's all these pens have in common. And we'll see another interesting-looking nib. So this looks like a standard nib, probably a number 5, but it has a metal collar over it. Not something that's typical, at least in my experience. And if we unscrew the barrel, we'll find, a screw converter. So obviously this is probably a little bit newer pen than some of the other ones with the aerometric converters that were used in an earlier time. Has decent weight to it. It feels okay in the hand. as is. And the cap posts, very nice, very deep. Add some weight to it, but it's okay with that. So that's the pens. Hopefully some of them you found interesting. They're all, I would call different design elements, but they're all pens, fountain pens, which is why you're probably watching this channel. So no LED, but I have a little strip of sunlight here coming in over my photography box that kind of like really has the pens sparkle, at least some of them. So you get to understand the chasing and the different design elements that went into play. There's some sparkle in the barrel, the resin in the barrel. So I guess this is like a turned acrylic. I don't see a seam as a rolled celluloid might have. But I thought you might enjoy another visual look at these pens. Because, like I said, pens should look good and you should enjoy looking at them. So in doing my research on these pens, I read in one of those not to be trusted social pen sites that this Wingsung had a steel cap. And these are very, very strong magnets, and the cap is not steel. Looks like there might be that finial at the end is made out of steel. Nothing at the back. So you may ask, how do you know what is steel? Well, there we go. This Montefiore definitely has a steel clip, but the rest of the pen is probably made out of brass. We take a look at this pen. Nothing sticks. And this pen, much to my surprise, there seems to be some steel inside the barrel. And now we go to the Hero, and the barrel is definitely made out of steel. Those magnets stick tremendously, but the cap is not, but the clip is. Yeah. I think there's a statement about useless information, so I'm certainly not going to be one to not do that. So we've looked at these 6 pens. Sorry, no writing. I may ink them up and write with them, but, I have enough pens inked up. And I need motivation. And also the other tools that Bobby sent will be put to use. They're all very functional, which is what I think Bobby does with his fountain pens. It's function over form, but sometimes that form can be very interesting. So I hope this video finds everyone safe, healthy, and happy, having a good time enjoying your pens. Hey, here's something to think about. At least try to look at some of that historical content of the various pens that were popular and made in China decades ago. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching. We've reached the end of this video, and I will say bye.